All, this is Gaurav, and let's start with today's session. So we are going to start off with the overview of SAP HANA. Okay, as we know that SAP HANA is something which is not an application, it is like a database which is going to replace the traditional databases that we were using till now. Okay, so before we start off understanding what exactly SAP S4HANA is, and within SAP S4HANA what has been changed from the logistics point of view, it will be good if we just have the basic overview of what exactly SAP HANA is, what are the benefits of SAP HANA over the traditional databases. Okay, so let me just proceed. So in order to understand how SAP HANA is better compared to the traditional database, we need to understand first what were the challenges that the customers were facing in the traditional databases. What do you mean by traditional databases? So as you know, when we were using SAP ECC all these years, SAP doesn't had their own database. So for application, we were using SAP, but SAP was supporting all different kind of databases like Oracle, SQL Server, all these were the different databases that the SAP was supporting till now. But as we know that all these traditional databases, they were developed around 30 years back. So in those days when they were developed, the technology was not available as it is available today. Let's take an example of RAM. If you go back 5 to 10 years back, the availability of RAM was not as it is today. So today, even in your mobile devices, you are getting good amount of RAM. But earlier, even on your laptops and computers, the amount of RAM which was available was very minimal. So you can understand that from last 5 years, you yourself must have noticed that the technology is available. There are many new things in terms of technology, like RAM is one of the things that we discussed. Apart from that, the cloud offerings which are being given from the different companies who are the competitors of SAP. So there are different things which are, if you compare from last 5-10 years, they are changed. So similar to that, when we are talking about the databases which were developed around 30 years back, in those days there were a lot of restrictions. And we are not saying that they are not upgraded themselves. Definitely within the traditional databases also, there have been various upgrades, there have been various updates available. They are trying to bring more and more functionalities into their database. But the very important thing is the foundation, what they created, the foundation with which they created their databases, that is not changed. Although the functionalities are improved, but the foundation has been same. So we are still used to store the data in the hard disk as of today. If you go to Oracle SQL Server, they are using your hard disk to store the data. But these days, everybody is talking about in-memory. In-memory means storing the data directly in RAM instead of the old way of storing the data in the hard disk. So first of all, let me just take this example. So as I told you, because these traditional databases, they had their own limitations in terms of storing the data, in terms of retrieving the data. That is the reason SAP thought of coming up with their own database which can provide all these kind of benefits. So this particular slide which I am referring now, this is talking about all those challenges which we faced when we were using the traditional database. So the first thing, as I told you, these databases, when they were developed, the technology was not available as it is today, and that is the reason the foundation of these databases was like done when there was limited amount of RAM, and that is the reason the data was getting stored in hard disk. So even till 2012, if you were already using ECC system and let's say you were using SAP on Oracle or SQL Server, So you were deploying more of hard disk and less of RAM, very minimal of RAM, and all the transactions were happening in the or getting stored in the hard disk. Now, before we go to the next thing, that is complex data model, let's try to understand first 2 points. What is the difference? If I'm storing the data in RAM, how it is different than storing the data in the hard disk? Anyways, it is a technical thing, it is happening in the background. How it is going to impact the performance of the SAP system? So let's take an example. You created a document, okay, or you posted a document. Now, when you posted a document, this data is getting stored somewhere in the database. Now, let's say you created a Migo transaction, you performed the Migo transaction and a material document was posted. Now, this document is stored in MKPF and MSEG table, and MKPF and MSEG are stored in the hard disk. So next time when you want to do the report, again you need to get the data which is available in the hard disk. So what happens is when you try to get the data from hard disk, it is obviously going to take more time compared to the data which is available in RAM. I can give you one example. So currently I am working on this PPT. Okay, this PPT is currently open in my laptop. If I want to make any changes, I can directly do the changes here itself, because it is, when we are using a particular PPT, it is available in RAM. But once I make the changes, save it and close it, it will go and get stored in some of the drive, that is C drive, D drive, they are hard disk. If I want to make any changes again, what I need to do, I need to double click on that and it will take some time to load that PPT. So currently, if it is already open, it is available in RAM, I can do the changes very fast. But once I close it, send it back to the hard disk, again if I want to bring it back, it will take time. So that lead time is something which is the problem with the hard disk. Okay, and that is the reason SAP thought of, or maybe not SAP, there are a lot of developments which were going on, and there was a concept of in-memory which came into the picture. And that is where SAP decided that instead of focusing on the other databases, let's come up with our own database which will store the data in memory. Okay, so this is one of the most important benefit which will bring the time down to perform your reportings. Second thing is complex data model. What do you mean by complex data model? So normally, when, let me again start with what we discussed in demo. I don't know how many of you have attended that, but this is just a same example that we discussed. So when you go to the customer and ask them, how do you find SAP? Most of the customers will say, yes, process-wise it is too good, integration-wise it is too good. But if you still ask them, what do you think are the improvement areas? So they will definitely talk about the speed. The speed is a problem. We are not getting the reports on time. Okay, so the first 2 points, as I told you, if you just replace your data, instead of storing that into the hard disk, if you start saving them into the RAM, definitely the amount of time which will be required will come down. But that is not the only thing. You also need to focus on other areas. For example, now if you drill further and try to identify why SAP is too slow in performing the reporting, so you will find that when you run a particular report, it goes and fetch the information from multiple different tables, right? When you run any report, 2 columns are extracted from one table. Again, with the reference, it will go to the second table. It will try to find another 2 columns from there. Again, it will go to the third table. Again, it will find the information from the third table. So what is happening in the background, there are different tables which are storing the data. So the data is not stored at one place. There is a complex architecture in the background. So storing the same information into parts, into different tables. Okay, why that is done? Why the traditional databases have followed the complex architecture or the complex data model? In order to improvise the performance. For example, if I store all the information at one place, any user, whenever he will do the reporting, every time the same database table will be called, and the system will become too slow, because every time you are asking the same table for the information. So how that can be improvised? That is the reason they came up with segregating the data. So if you need this information, go to this table. If you need this information, go to this table. So many users can take the information in parallel from different tables. Okay, but that is something which is causing the slowness in the system. Okay, so in order to avoid that, what we need to do, we need to simplify the data model. Now what do you mean by simplify? Simplify means try to make sure that the data is available at one place wherever possible. Now again, when you go for simplification, as I told you, all the load will come on the common table. Then we are again at the same place. If everything is available at one place, all users are trying to get the information from one place, again, will it not make slow? The answer is no, because with these 2 points, the availability of RAM and not storing the data in the hard disk, even if thousands of users are trying to access the same data, it will not make any difference, because the speed which you are going to get is around 10,000 times faster. And that is the reason, instead of storing the data at multiple different places, the ultimate motivation of SAP S4HANA is to bring most of the data at one common place, so that you don't need to write a complex code and the architecture is simplified in the background. Now, in continuation to this point, as I told you, let's say for example, sales order related data. You created a sales order, data is getting stored at different tables. So for status information, it is going to VBUK. For line level information, it is going to VBAP. For header information, it is going to VBAK, for example. So currently, there are 3 tables which are involved. Now, why I have created a separate table for status? If I already have VBAK, can't I use the same VBAK table for the status information? The answer is yes, it is possible. It is very much possible. But the thing is, if I keep both of this table merged in ECC, every time whenever a user wants to see the status, he needs to go into the main table of VBAK, which will make VBAK slower. That is the reason in ECC, SAP has created a separate table called as VBUK, so that if 10 users are asking for the information, out of that 4 users are only interested in status, so it will divide the load into multiple tables and the system will perform fast, right? So what is happening here, same information, if you are trying to store at multiple places, you are doing the redundancy of data. Repetition. Redundancy means repetition. If you store same information at multiple places, unnecessarily you are consuming the system memory. Okay, and ultimately you are having the high data footprint. It is like you have a mobile device in which you have 8 GB of 8 GB of memory card. Now, if you store same song 4 times, unnecessarily what you are doing, unnecessarily you are consuming more resources of your memory. Okay, so what will happen? The footprint will be high. So if a song is having the size of 5 MB, it will be multiplied by 4 and the system will be utilizing 20 MB of memory, right? So that is one of the problem in SAP ECC today. There is a lot of repetition of data, due to which there is a high data footprint. Okay, now coming to the row-based data storage. What do you mean by row-based data storage? Let me just open the Excel sheet in which I'll just show you one example of the difference between row-based and column-based data storage and how row-based is better than the column-based, or the column-based is better than the row-based. All these things we'll see. Just give me a minute. Let me open the Excel sheet. Okay, let me know once you're able to see the Excel. Just write yes on the chat screen. Okay, yes. So for example, let's say there is one table called as employee table in SAP system, and let's say there are 4 columns. This is my employee table with 4 columns, that is employee ID, name of employee, year of birth, and year of joining the company. So let's say there are 4 employees, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's say name is A, B, C, and D, and year of birth, let's say 1970, 1975, 1970 once again, and 1980. And year of joining the company, let's say 2001, 2004, 2016, and let's say 2004 again. Okay, so this is the table, let's say, which is available in SAP. Now, we are talking about the difference between row-based and column-based data storage. Now, the first thing that will come to your mind is, what is row-based and column-based? If we go through the definition of a table, what is a table? A table is a combination of rows and columns. So these are my columns and these are my rows. So from the layman point of view, we understand that in any particular table there are different rows and there are different columns. Then why SAP is saying that earlier system, ECC system, was storing the data in the form of rows? What is the difference? What is a row-based data storage? So from the layman point of view, if you go to SE11 or SE16N, we always see the data in this form, the columns and rows. But it doesn't mean that in the background also the information is stored like this. In the background, this information is either stored in the form of rows or it is stored in the form of columns. Now, what is row-based data storage? Row-based data storage will take one row at a time and it will store in one particular field. So it will be any separator, A, 1970 and 2001. So this is how the row-based data is stored in the table. Okay. Similarly, there will be 2, B, 1975 and 2004. 3, C, 1970 and 2016. And last is 4, D, 1980 and 2004. So this is how the data is stored in the row-based data storage. Okay, and this is how it is stored in the form of column-based data storage. So in the column, it will be like this. One record will be combination of the complete column. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how one column is equal to one record. A, B, C, D. 1970, 1975, again 1970 and 1980. And last one 2001, 2004, 2016 and again 2004. So this is the difference between row-based and column-based data storage. In the row-based data storage, one record is one row, and in column-based data storage, one record is one column. But why we are discussing this? This is something which is happening in the background. So SAP stores in the form of rows or in the form of columns, how it is going to make any difference to us? Now, in order to understand that, let's say we let's say you want to create a report. So select, I hope all of you understand at least the basic SQL. Select employee ID, okay, and year of joining. I just want these two fields in my report, employee ID, year of joining, from table, which is a table, employee table, where year of joining is equal to 2004. Simple SQL statement. I want to run a simple report. Now when this report will be executed, okay, and if the data is stored in the form of rows, see what will happen. So it will go and find out whether the year of joining is 2004 or not. This is a condition, right? Based on this condition, it will display this column and this column. Okay, so how this is processed? When you execute this report, this will first go to this record and find whether year is 2004 or not. So it will completely scan the record, completely. It will not only go for 2004, it will go 1A 1970 and then find 2004. No, this will be failed. It will go to the second record, 2B 1975 2004. Yes, this is coming in this range. This is coming in this condition. So this will be selected. Again, it will go to the third record. It will completely scan 3C 1970 2016. Again, it will return no. And finally, it will go to the fourth record, where again it will start from 4D 1980 2004. And finally, it will provide you the information, yes, 2 records are selected. What is the problem here? The problem is, in our query, we are not bothered about this. Nowhere in our query we are talking about these 2 columns. We are not bothered about these 2 columns at all. Then too, whenever you are executing this query, system is completely scanning the record, even if these 2 columns are not important. So normally in ECC, you have that huge tables. You have hundreds of columns available in a table. And let's say out of that 100 columns, you are only bothered about 4 columns. In that case also, it will completely scan all the 100 columns. So unnecessarily, it is scanning the data which is not useful. And that is the reason the reportings are slow. That is the reason the reportings are slow in ECC. So what is the solution? Let's now understand how this will work, column-based data storage. Same query now performed when the data is stored in the column format. So what will happen? Employee ID, year of joining. So this will just go here and this will just go here. This will not consider these 2 things at all. So if there are hundreds of columns, only 4 columns are relevant. So you are saving up to 96% of your time in processing the query. Right? So in short, in case of reporting, column-based data storage is faster. Right? So whenever you want to perform the reporting, it is always good to store the data in the form of columns, which was not available in ECC, which was not available in the traditional databases. This is one of the functionality which is available in HANA. HANA allows you to store the data in the form of columns. But again, there is one problem here. What is the problem? The problem is, in case of reporting, fine, column-based data storage is much faster. But let's say if I add a new line here, phi E, let's say again 1985 and again 2004. So in that case, it will be really easy for the system to add a new line here. It will not impact your current data, right? It will directly go and insert a new record. But here, in case of column-based data storage, this has to be updated in each and every record. So it will go to the first thing, it will update first column. Here it will go to the second thing, it will update this information, then it will come here and update this information and find, sorry, this I missed it. So it will go here and update this information. So in case of transaction processing, whenever you are inserting something new, whenever you are doing any transaction, your row-based data storage will be faster because it will just create a new line. In case of reporting, your column-based data storage will be faster. So what should we do? Whether we should go with row-based, in which transactions are faster but reports are slow, or we should go with column-based where reports are faster but the data transactions are slow. And we don't want to compromise anything, right? We should not focus on report and compromise on the speed of transactions. That is the reason SAP HANA supports both. It supports row-based also and column-based also. What do you mean by this now? So do you mean that I need to store the same information into two different formats? So if I'm saving this 10 GB of data in row-based, does this mean I again need to store this 10 GB of data, same thing repetitively, only to make sure that it's stored in the column-based? The answer is no, because even though row-based and column-based data will be stored in parallel, the amount of memory required for row-based will be whatever is required, but the amount of memory required by column, this will be not more than 10%. So it will not be more than 1 GB, because this data will be stored in the compressed form. This compression is again one of the very important benefit of SAP HANA. So what is happening? You are storing the data in the form of rows, you are storing the data in the form of columns. Whenever you are doing the reporting, the data will come from columns. Whenever you are doing the transactions, the data is getting stored in the form of rows. So ultimately you are getting speed not only in terms of transactions but also in terms of reporting. And that is the most important benefit of SAP HANA, to provide you the speed, and which, as I started, which is one of the biggest pain point when you ask any customer, how do you feel, where exactly are the areas of improvement where SAP should concentrate, right? So SAP HANA is going to provide you that speed that we are talking about. Okay, let me just go back to the PPT now. So SAP, or this we are discussing about the traditional databases. So traditional databases, we are storing the data in the form of rows. That is the reason, because they were not supporting the column-based data storage, the amount of time required to perform the reporting was much higher compared to SAP HANA database, because the data will be directly stored, data will be stored also in the column-based format. Okay, now because of all these reasons, because of storing the data in hard disk, because of complex data model, because of redundancy, because of high data footprint, because of row-based data storage, there was slowness in the transaction processing, and there was slowness also in the reporting. So you were not able to perform your transactions on time. At the same time, you were not able to perform your reporting on time, and which was one of the biggest problem, because if you don't perform or if you don't close your financial books on time, then it is a big loss to the business, right? So that is the reason we call this approach as a reactive business model. Reactive business model means, because you are not getting the information, relevant information on time, because your management is not getting the relevant information on time, they are only getting the information once everything is already being done. So they can only take reactive actions, right? But management wants to be proactive now. They want to make sure that whatever decisions they are taking, they are before anything has went wrong. So in order to become proactive, we need to come up, or SAP needs to come up with all these solutions. So now this is going to be exactly opposite. So what is available in SAP HANA? SAP HANA is designed for in-memory computing. As I told you, in-memory means what? So basically there are two types of memories. You must have done this in your college also when we were understanding IT. So there are basically two types of memory. One is the primary memory and second is the secondary memory, RAM and ROM, right? So RAM is something which is going to store the data directly in the primary memory, and ROM is something which is a secondary memory, which means like hard disk, floppies, CDs. These are something which is storing the data in the secondary memory. And primary memory is comparatively very fast when you compare it with the secondary, and very costly also. So it is not like earlier the memory was not available, but it was too costly. But now, as you know, the amount of RAM, or the prices of RAM have been not that much as it used to be earlier. Even the mobile devices is having a good amount of RAM now. So that is the reason the SAP HANA is going to use the concept of in-memory in which the data will be directly stored on RAM. Not only that, because of this functionality, you can simplify your data model also. So going forward, whatever architecture you were using earlier, as I told you, you were segregating the same data into 10 different tables, just to make sure that all the users should not touch one common table and it should not impact the performance. Let's create 10 different copies so that some of the information can be taken from here, some other information from some other table, right? But now the SAP HANA, because that is not a problem at all, you can store all the information at one place. Thousands of users can access the data in real time with the faster speed. So we can think of moving each and everything on a common platform, on a common database table. So that is the reason your architecture will become simple. So many complicated tables will be removed and it will be replaced by some new tables, simple tables. Okay, so which again is same thing, removed redundancy. So whatever repetitions you have created, they are going to be removed. We'll talk about aggregates and indices. Once I complete this, I will tell you what is aggregates and what are indices. And because you are removing the repetitions, because you are not storing the same information again and again, as I given you the example of storing the same song 4 times in your mobile, if you only save it once, you are going to reduce your data footprint, which means the amount of memory that will be occupied, that will come down. Okay, and as I told you, SAP HANA supports both, that is row as well as column-based data storage, rows for faster transactions and columns for faster reporting. And with all these points, this is just a rough figure which is taken by SAP from taking the feedback of different customers. So it is around 1800 times faster processing, both transactions as well as reporting. Okay, and that is the reason, as I told you earlier, the customers were following the reactive business model in which they were able to take the decisions only when everything was done. It was like a post-mortem activity, but now since most of the reports are available in real time, they can be executed faster, they can perform the reportings whenever required, and they can take the preventive or proactive actions. Okay, so this is the one of the line which is which has been given by the chairman of SAP, that SAP HANA permits OLTP and OLAP. What is OLTP? OLTP is online transaction processing. OLAP is online analytical processing, which means the transaction system and the reporting system will come together now. So SAP HANA permits transactions as well as reporting workloads on the common platform by storing the data in high-speed memory, right? The data will be directly stored in high-speed memory, that is RAM, and it is going to be organized it in the columns. So the data will be organized in the form of columns, which will give you faster reporting. And this also delivers faster query processing that aggregates data efficiently. What do you mean by processing the aggregates data? As I told you, I'll talk about aggregates and indices once we are done with this particular slide. So I think you are now able to understand some of the important pointers here. You must have already heard about in-memory, and that is something which you must already know, that in-memory means storing the data in the RAM directly. But two other things, one is column-based data storage, you must have heard, but I hope by this example it is now clear what is the difference between row-based and column-based, and why column-based data is faster than row-based in terms of reporting, and why row-based data storage is faster compared to column-based in case of transaction processing. Okay, now I want to explain this particular thing, aggregates and indices. So for this, let me show you the server directly, in which I'll be showing you one real-time example. Just give me a minute. Okay, please write yes if you are able to see the SAP screen. Okay, yes. Now, if I go to table MARD, you must be knowing MARD. MARD is storage location data for material. So whenever you create a material master for a particular storage location, the data is stored here in this table MARD. So accordingly, when I'm saying the material master information, this means this is a master data table. But this is not only the master data table. I will tell you why. This is not only holding the fields which you enter in the material master. Just for example, if I execute this by providing this plant, so you can see it is showing the details of one particular material. Okay, so it is providing some information like what is the current year, what is the current period, and some other information related to the material master. But apart from that, you will find there are a lot of fields like this: unrestricted, stock in transfer, quality inspection, restricted, blocked. So all these things are not master data. This is keeping on changed. Maybe instead of SL01, let me just take as SLOG slog. Yes, here you can see the unrestricted has a quantity of 20, which means currently in this particular storage location and in this particular material, for this particular material, this is the quantity available in unrestricted stock. This is not a master data, right? In master data, you don't maintain how much quantity is available. It will automatically update itself whenever you do the transaction. So for example, if I perform another transaction, if I do the MIGO of another 10, automatically you will find this will become 30. I'm not changing material master. I'm just doing the transactions. So transaction should not come here, right? This is a master data table. This is not a master data table. This is a hybrid table. Why hybrid table? What is the difference between a master data table and a hybrid table? So basically there are three types of tables. Okay, let me just show you in the notepad here. There are three types of tables. Number one, master data tables. Number two, aggregates tables. And number three, hybrid tables. So master data tables are like MARA. Okay, just for example, only master data fields, nothing else. Okay, aggregates tables are the tables which are only going to hold the aggregates. I'll talk about what is aggregates. Only aggregates. And hybrid is something which stores both master as well as aggregates. Okay, so with this example, you already understood that this holds some of the information related to material, but it is also storing some of the aggregates. What are aggregates? Aggregates are whenever a transaction is done. So for example, if I do another MIGO, whatever quantity it will be update, it will come here, it will make this plus and automatically it will update. So this is aggregation. This is keeping on adding and subtracting itself. Aggregation is what? Aggregation means the calculations, right? So these are the calculation fields. So there are some tables which are only responsible for calculation. There are not much of aggregation tables in logistics point of view, but if you are aware of Fagel FlexD in case of finance, that is only the aggregation table. Okay, so in logistics, I don't have any example to give for the aggregate tables, but when it is a combination of master data as well as aggregates, it is called as a hybrid table. And that is the reason this table is called as a hybrid table. But why we are discussing this? We are discussing this because, as I told you, in ECC, whenever you do transaction, it is not only affecting your MKPF and MSEG. Normally we know that only. Whenever we do the transaction, it goes to MKPF and MSEG. It is not only going there, it is also going to MARD, performing the calculations, and it is updating this. But the question here is, why that is required? If we have everything available in MSEG, if MSEG is able to give you thousands of records for a particular material, does system cannot calculate it automatically rather than storing in some of the table? Why system is not calculating? Let's say, for example, in MSEG there are 1000 lines for this material, some plus, some minus. So if I ask the information from the system, please provide me what is the available quantity under unrestricted for this particular material, why system is not calculating rather than every time updating this table? The reason is the calculation engine. The calculation engine is something which is a component within your database. So in Oracle SQL Server, this calculation engine was not very powerful. It was not able to perform these calculations in runtime, and that is the reason we were creating all these different kind of aggregate tables so that the calculation should be performed at the time of transaction itself rather than reporting. And that is the reason whenever you do the transaction, in the background there are a lot of calculations happening. So if you perform the calculation in the background, obviously your transactions will become slow, right? So now with SAP HANA, with the powerful calculation engine, all these things are not required. So there will be no more aggregates. Now even in this is SAP S4 system 1610. Even though we are able to see the field here, unrestricted quantity, but this is not getting calculated during the time of transactions. This is getting calculated at the time of reporting. Whenever I am going for MARD, in the background it is calculating and it is showing to us, but it is not physically stored in the table. So that is the beauty of SAP HANA. Column-based data storage, in-memory computing, you have less number of aggregates required, unnecessarily data footprint is going to be reduced. With all these points, SAP HANA is going to be the database which is going to give you the speed as well as the flexibility to improvise the processes. And that is exactly what SAP has done. They first came up with SAP HANA. By using the powerful features of SAP HANA, they are now trying to rebuild their processes. And to rebuild the processes, they are coming up with a completely new application, which is SAP S4HANA. So the backbone of SAP S4HANA is SAP HANA database. You cannot think of using the SAP S4HANA system on traditional databases. That option is not at all available, because whatever things are available on SAP S4HANA, they are only because of SAP HANA in the background, right? So I think now you must be able to understand the different terms which are associated with SAP HANA: in-memory computing, the column-based data storage, what are the aggregates, okay? So let me just go back to the PPT. Just give me a minute. Okay, let me just see what is next. Yeah, so I think maybe we can start with the questions and answers. We'll talk about other benefits also, not directly related to SAP HANA, because tomorrow we'll start with SAP S4HANA. So some of the things which will keep on repeating, which we also understood in SAP HANA. So if you have any questions related to today's topic that we discussed, please go ahead and you may raise your hand, or maybe you can write on the chat screen also. Okay, on the chat screen I don't find any question, but there are some hands raised. Let me just, Mr. Venkat Badri, go ahead. You're unmuted now.
Yeah, what exactly the business advantage? I mean, you mentioned all the advantages related to performance related, right? That's what I understood. What
No,
exactly?
ultimately, see, ultimately, whatever, as I told you, the final point, if you see, proactive business model. So if you are if you are from management of the company, let's say you are a CEO, CFO, so they are looking for what? They want to make sure that the reports are available on time so that they can take the future actions. Okay, so they are getting that because the reportings which were taking a lot of time to get updated earlier, now they are available on time with the speed. At the same time, transactions. So earlier, transaction processing also was slow because there were a lot of logs because the system was calculating the aggregates in the background. So transaction processing was also slow. Now, earlier if you were taking, let's say, 3 days to create, let's say, 1,000 invoices, now if you are able to do it in 1 day, that is definitely the direct advantage to the business. But just understand one thing, whatever we are discussing today, these are not the only advantages of SAP S4. We are only discussing the advantages of SAP HANA today. There are a lot of other advantages to the business that you will be able to understand in tomorrow's session, because tomorrow we will be talking about SAP S4 as an application.
Oh, this is only SAP HANA, not S4 HANA.
Yes, yes, this is only SAP HANA as a database.
Okay. That.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Ravindra, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, when you said in a marked table, it does not store aggregates, say for example, the total of unrestricted stocks. Currently in ECC, sorry, so currently in ECC today, we write an ABAP query to go into the table and get that information through an SQL query, right? With this new approach of HANA, you said that it is not getting updated whenever I do a MIGO or when I do a MB1A or 1B, etc. If it's not getting updated, then do you think that the ABAP queries that we have written or we may write in future will not work?
No, that is not the case.
To get the data directly from the table field?
Yes, I got your point, Ravindra. So that is not the situation. I'll tell you why. So even again, if I go back to server to tell you this particular thing, see, currently also, even as I told you, this is 1610 system, right, which is the latest version of SAP S4. So here you can see it is still showing you 20.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have written a query which is trying to get this field from this particular table, it will still get the information. So it is still showing you 20. How? It is not storing within itself. This is getting generated automatically whenever you are querying. So for example, we are currently querying MARD. So during the time of reporting, it is going on to calculation and it is providing you the information. So this information on the reporting point of view, it will again bring the data directly from the main tables. Instead of MARD, it will bring the data from a new table we will discuss in detail, that is MATDOC. But answering your question, the queries that you have written earlier, the reports, the Z programs that you have written, most of them will remain unimpacted. Okay, even though if the tables are removed, even though the columns are not going to be updated, SAP is automatically going to redirect the flow to the place where the exact information is available. So although this information is not directly available in MARD, but from the reporting point of view, it will still give you the same results.
So when you say it redirects to the MATDOC table in that case.
Exactly. Yes, yes, exactly. I'll show you some of the scenarios when we drill down into this topic. I'll show you some of the scenarios like, yes.
Yeah, I understand. Let me just ask one more question on the column storage. In the example that you gave, you said instead of row-based for those 4 columns of employee information, everything will be stored now in one column. Let's say there are 5 rows.
Yes. Okay. Okay. In case of column based.
Translated. In case of column based, it will be converted into one column, right? And each row of that one column corresponds to one row of the row table. No, sorry. How would I put it? A part of
Yeah,
one
can you see the
column.
screen now?
Yeah, I'm seeing that. So here, if you say that in the column based, you are saying that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be one row,
One record.
one record, or is it the same as a row?
No, not exactly.
Okay, so
It
that's where
is
the
one
confusion.
address. It is one address in the memory.
Okay. What would be the name of that column then? Will there be any name or no? No name at
No,
all.
name is whatever technical name that you have provided, that is in the background it is going to be stored with the same name. Okay, only thing is how it is going to be stored from the technical point of view, it will club all the columns into one record. But the names will remain same. Whatever names you provided to the table like this
Yeah.
names
So
will remain as it is.
where will the name show up? Does it show wherever you said column based? That's where it will show up? Because see,
So see,
in one column you are
I
having data
I
mixed
got
up with all the rows.
yes, yes. See, I got your point, but this is not something which system will show you. This is storing in the
I
background.
know, right.
Yes.
But
So
you will
instead
not be
of
seeing that names.
exactly, let me put it in this way. So it will be stored like this. So the let's say first row will be for columns. So here it is specifying what is the first column, what is the second column, what is the third column, and what is the fourth
Okay,
column.
okay. So that's what
So
the
this will
missing
be also
point
the
is.
combination. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Vijay, I just unmuted you, Mr. Vijay.
Yeah, I put on the chart window already my two questions. Number one, you said column-based is less space versus row-based, like a 1/10 of the memory, and because the
Yes.
compressibility and why, what is the limitation of the compressibility on the row-based storage? That's number one. And the second one is a related question. When the column-based and row-based coexist, OLTP uses row-based and OLAP uses column-based. Is that the way it is stored, or they need to
Yes.
choose either column-based or row-based, one or the other?
No. When you are see, row-based will be always there because you don't want to sacrifice the transaction speed. So
Yes.
row-based will be always there, but column-based will be optional. So for some of the reports, or sorry, for some of the tables, you may decide that I don't want to keep it as column-based because this is not something which I'll be using too much in reporting point of view. But row-based will always remain, and column-based is optional.
Oh, okay. Column-based is optional only for the reporting. You mean the sidecar kind of a scenario, or?
No. In any of the scenario, it may be sidecar, it may be the normal scenario. So let's say, for example, if I show you this MARD, okay,
Okay.
if I go for SE11,
Mm-hmm.
MARD, and here you can see the attributes, sorry,
Yeah.
not attribute, yeah, I think technical settings, yeah, database, see here. So you can specify here whether it is a column store. Row-based will be always there, even though there is no take, row-based will be always there, but you can decide whether you want to keep this table as a column-based storage or not.
Oh, okay. So that is user preference, or the database, when they install the database, that's the database
Database.
settings?
Database.
Oh, okay.
It will not be used. But from technical
Oh.
point of view, let's say you are creating some Z report, so you can
Mm-hmm.
specify that, okay, this Z report will be stored in the form of column also.
Oh, I see. No, when the database is set up, when the SAP HANA is getting installed, the database administrator will take care of that, which one is column-based or which one is row-based, or SAP HANA comes
Not
with some
for,
column-based.
yes, exactly. So as if you ask the administrator to keep track of each and every table, that will be very difficult. So SAP
Exactly,
has
yeah.
already provided some of the tables which are going to be column based, but if you want to change, that is something which is in the hands of administrators.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you very much, Gaurav. So both OLTP
Okay.
and OLAP can use both row-based and column-based, right? It's not specific. OLAP will be column-based and OLTP will be row-based. So it is
No, by
both can use
default,
both.
see, by default, yes, by default, whenever you are going for OLAP, whenever you are writing a select statement, by default it will consider the column based. Whenever you are going for insertion, new transaction, it will be obviously row based plus column based.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So
for the
OLAP is
data which is
always
stored in the
column
form
based.
of rows,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes, you're right.
Okay.
Okay, there are some questions on the chat screen. Let me just open that. Yes, somebody asked a good question. Just a minute. Yeah, Vijay, I think I already answered your question. Then there is question from Sunandan. He's asking what is indices. Okay, I'll give you one example of indices also. And it is again Vijay. So Vijay, your questions are answered. Yes, one question which is by Sunandan. Let me answer that. What is indices? Okay, now let me just, I think you are already able to see the server. There is a table called as, just a minute, yes, 16, and there is a table called as VAPMA or VAKPA. How many of you know this table? VAPMA. Someone from SD point of view, this is a table which is related to SD. This is order items by material. So for example, if I want a report, the list of sales orders by material. I know the material number. I want to find how many sales orders are created with respect to this material. Now this information I can get very easily from VBAP. In VBAP I have all the information, sales order number, material number, quantity, everything is available in VBAP. Still SAP has created another table called as VAPMA, which is only going to give you the information. If you provide the material number, it will tell you which sales orders are created. Is it not the repetition? When all this information is already available in VBAP, why I am creating VAPMA then? The answer is VBAP is my most important table in ACC. Whenever I do any sales transaction, whenever I create any new sales order, whatever I do related to sales order processing, it always updates VBAP. Now let's say there are 10 different users. 5 users are doing the transaction in sales order and 5 users are trying to get some reports from sales order. So if I give a same table to each of them, 10 users trying to get the data or update the data in the same table, it will be too slow, right? In order to avoid that, SAP has segregated the tables according to the requirement. So for now, let's say a user is looking for the report by material. Why should I give you from VBAP? Go and take the information from this. Okay, but this is obviously the repetition. Whatever is already stored in VBAP, you are unnecessarily storing it some other table because you don't want to impact the performance of your main table. That is the reason there are a lot of such tables which are created called as index tables. So this is also something which is going to be removed. So as of today, the example that I'm showing you, this is still available as a table, but going forward, these indexes are also going to be deleted completely and everything will come from the main table. I hope you got the answer, Sunandan. And the others, have you understood what is indexes? Yeah, Sharmila, I just unmuted you. Please go ahead with your question.
Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
When you said that table will be like stored as a row as well as the column, so do you mean to say that there will be two table and it would be duplicating, or how it is?
No. Table will be same. Only thing is the formats in which it will be stored is going to be duplicated. As I told you, duplication will not cause double data. It will make sure that the second information, which is column based information, it is in the compressed form. So this compression is again one of the benefit of SAP HANA. So the data will be available in two different forms. So whenever you ask for a report from same table, it will get the information from column based, and whenever you are doing the transactions, it will be updated in the row based.
Can you show on the Excel part because I'm not clear at.
You want to see in Excel?
Yeah. I mean, when say a transaction is created, I mean it getting inserted into the table. You mean to say that when it is when we are doing the posting, it is getting stored in the row-based table, and when I'm doing the reporting, it is getting picked from the column-oriented table?
Table is same. Only the way in which it is stored in the background, it is stored in two forms. See, when I'm talking about, let's say, MARD, now this MARD is one table. It is not dividing into two different tables when I'm saying about row-based and column-based. Within MARD, in the background, it is getting stored in two different forms, row-based as well as column-based. Okay, now whenever I do the transaction, first it gets updated in the form of row-based because that is faster. And then
So that,
internally,
yeah, Gaurav.
sorry. Yeah,
What I
internally,
wanted to say,
the data, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, when you said that there are two formats in which it will be stored, so that means that data will be duplicated. I mean, in the row, say there is one column as a row based, so it will store the complete row, and then when you said column, so it will like store only the column. So do you mean to say that data will be duplicated?
Definitely, as I told you, data will be duplicated, but it doesn't mean that 100% duplication will be there. It will be only 10% because column-based data stored is in the compression form, compressed form. There is a
Okay.
duplication, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I got the answer. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm not able to, yeah, Anurag, have you, no, sorry. Yes, I am not able to see any other hands raised. If you have any questions, please either raise the hand or maybe you can write on the chat screen. Suman, I don't know, I'm not able to unmute you. Ravindra, I just unmuted you now.
Yeah. Just the question is, you said this is 1610 version.
Yes.
And what are the what is for us to log in? What is the username and the password for this?
No, you will get the details from the Krishna or Sana, whoever is coordinating with you for user ID and password. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks.
Suman, I don't know. I'm not able to unmute you. Are you there, Suman? Can you just type on the chat screen, or you are disconnected? Okay. Yeah, I got your question now. MAT DOC will be in the table. Will have LTP, LAP. Yes, you're right. Anyways, we are going to talk about MAT DOC. So it is going to be storing the data in the form of both column as well as rows. See, most of the tables which you normally use for reporting purpose, they will store the data in the form of columns. That is the whole idea. You can see another raise. Okay. Shaji, you are written, you have the question. Can you just raise your hand? Vivek, do you have any question? Your hand is raised.
Yeah, so my question is when we write a query, the table name would be the same what we are using now, or it's a different table name?
Yes, yes. No, 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 no. See, from the end user functional consultant point of view, we'll not be able to track the difference also. It will be exactly same. This is something which is happening in the background. So we are not bothered whether the data is getting stored in the form of rows or columns. We'll get the reports in the same way and with a very better speed. Why we are discussing this? Because this is the backbone of SAP S4. So if you understand SAP HANA, it will be good for you because whenever you are going to the client side, maybe you are a functional consultant, but normally the companies doesn't understand the difference between. So they ask you, okay, so you are here for HANA. So what do you think are the benefits of HANA? So if you tell them in memory, column based, and if they ask you further details, it will become difficult for you to answer. So at least now you should be aware that what is the difference, but otherwise from the functional point of view, it is not going to make any difference.
So developer will write the same query by select queries using the same table and field names. So there is no change in that, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Yes, Shari, you are asking whether we are going to cover the integration with FICO data changes. Definitely yes. We are going to see the integration, we'll be having the overview of Simple Finance also, how the new system will look like, what are the changes in the Simple Finance. We'll be having the overview of that also. Okay, any further questions before we close today? There's a question, reports through BIBO. If you are asking whether we are going to cover or not, BI and BO something we are not going to cover, but I'll give you the overview of what is going to be changed in BIBO going forward, but it will not take more than 5-10 minutes. So if you are talking from the covering point of view, this is something which is beyond our scope. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. We'll meet tomorrow again with SAP S4HANA overview, and then from the next week, we'll be discussing all these topics in detail. Thank you. Bye.